I'm John McKee, editor of Messianic Apologetics. Messianicapologetics.net. And I would like to welcome you to this episode of Messianic Insider, your theology and news roundup for June the 11th, 2025. Yesterday, we did have a rather long episode. We discussed 1 Thessalonians 2, 14 through 16, dealing with the issue of the Jews who killed the Lord Yeshua and the prophets. That was an unusually long episode, but we're going to be having more of those in the future, but not today. Today, we're going to be having a brief discussion about the pre versus post-trib rapture controversy, and then we're going to be getting into a lot of news. So let's get started on our theology roundup. Okay, if you have not already, please do go to outreachisraelbookstore.com, and here you see our ministry publication, The Dangers of Pre-Tribulationism. Which is a report we've had going back all the way to 2003, so near the very start of our ministry, addressing some of the top reasons why people believe in the pre-tribulation rapture and fairly addressing them. Now, we're not going to have this publication available for that much longer because, as I've said, certainly over the past few months, I have been working this year on a combined When Will the Messiah Return? Dangers of Pre-Tribulationism volume. And I am coming toward the end of that volume being ready. So possibly even before we leave for the Messiah conference, it will be ready. We'll have to wait and see about that. But Dangers of Pre-Tribulationism, an important study. And in the combined volume, you're getting both When Will the Messiah Return, dangers, as well as additional material. So this material is not being pulled from circulation. It's just being combined with other resources. And I'll announce when the new volume is ready. Okay, so what we're going to be addressing comes mainly from Luke 21:36. So I'm actually going to be teaching from the new volume on When Will the Messiah Return? Dangers of Pre-Tribulationism. So there we go. And a common reason proposed for the pre-tribulation rapture, some of you all may have heard this before, and of course, Dangers of Pre-Tribulationism addresses the 50 main reasons given in support of the pre-tribulation rapture, mainly by John Wolverd, the late John Wolverd of Dallas Theological Seminary. But here you have reason 15, the possibility of a believer escaping the tribulation is mentioned in Luke 21:36. And this is something you will see broadcast all over social media. And a lot of people just, they don't know what to do with it. Hey, maybe pre-trib is correct here. Let us examine what Luke 21:36 actually says. But keep on the alert at all times, praying that you may have strength to escape all these things that are about to take place and to stand before the Son of Man. Luke 21:36, New American Standard. Okay. So, do those who hold to a post-tribulational view, possibly even a pre-wrath view, do they have a response to this? In most Bibles, the Greek verb ekpheugo is rendered as escape. That's ekphugo. But it can also be legitimately translated flee. The BDAG lexicon defines ekfugo as both to seek safety in flight, run away, and to become free from danger by avoiding some peril, escape. The Revised English Bible actually renders Luke 21:36 with, be on the alert, praying at all times for strength to pass safely through, the verb ekfugo, all that is coming. The proper usage of ekfugo is speaking of fleeing from a place or a situation, not being completely removed from the tribulation period. Yeshua the Messiah has directed his followers to remain on guard so that they might be able to flee from all of the situations, persecutions, and catastrophes of Daniel's 70th week, not be removed via the pre-tribulation rapture. Interestingly enough, the verb translated as have strength in this passage is katiskuo and fully means to have power over, overpower, prevail against one, or to come to one's full strength, the Liddell Scott lexicon. If Messiah followers are admonished by the Lord to have strength to overcome and prevail, where is the implication of a pre-tribulation rapture? The escapist motives of pre-tribulationists should be obvious here. The book of Revelation, in contrast to this, begins with multiple words to the holy ones or saints, encouraging them to overcome. Revelation 2:7, 11, 17, 26, 3:5, 12, 21. So to briefly review that again. Now here you have New American Standard, although other versions have something similar. Praying that you may have strength to escape all these things. The verb ekfugo from the BDAG lexicon can mean both to seek safety in flight, run away, and to become free from danger by avoiding some peril, escape. Revised English Bible, and I think this interjects a perspective we really need to consider, renders Luke 21:36 with, be on the alert, praying at all times for strength to pass safely through ekfugo, all that is coming. So, is a pre-tribulation rapture escape required, or could it instead be speaking of escaping all of the terrible situations of the future end times because God's people are to have the strength to overcome or prevail? That is something which, of course, ultimately is ideological. A common criticism of the pre-tribulation rapture is that it promotes escapism. And indeed, there are a lot of things involving the pre-tribulation rapture which concern, are you looking at this passage correctly? Have you just looked at it on the surface? Have you considered some other possibilities? Well, we've just done that with Luke 21:36. And the resource, Dangers of Pre-Tribulationism. So let's go back to that screen. Oh, no, let's not go back to that screen. Sorry about that. Okay, there we go. Dangers of Pre-Tribulationism goes into a lot more detail regarding this. And I'll be announcing, hopefully, before we leave for Messiah 2025, that the combined When Will the Messiah Return? Dangers of Pre-Tribulationism volume is ready. All right, so let's get into some news. A lot is happening right now in the world. Israel, Hamas, the Iranian situation, not so much on Russia, Ukraine right now, but also the riots in Los Angeles and anticipated riots and protests throughout the United States, especially toward this weekend. We're going to be discussing a little bit the No Kings movement. Some of you have probably already heard about that. Now, we do the news after the theology roundup because the news, of course, changes. It's time sensitive from day to day. All of the links I'm going through will be available for you to look at when this episode is archived at messianicapologetics.net. All right, so let's get started. These are things which I mostly encounter passively on social media. So X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, some Facebook, and once in a while, one of you will direct message me an article. All right, so here we start with Newsmax from yesterday, June the 10th. Former President Biden's use of an auto pen to sign official presidential documents has been revealed to be far more widespread than originally suspected, according to new revelations by the Heritage Foundation's Oversight Project. This is not going to end up well. It's one thing for, obviously, if you are in a business or even if you're in a high-profile government agency, the chief executive, someone in authority, cannot physically sign every single document they approve, especially if it involves sending letters to people. I remember many of us have done this years ago, writing a letter to the White House in Washington, and I got a letter sent back to me from President George Bush Sr. Did President Bush actually read the letter I sent? Did he actually write the response? Did he actually sign it? Of course not. He had someone in the mailroom, someone in a department at the White House do that, and there was an automatically printed signature from George Bush Sr. But with this, we're talking about high pieces of legislation which require the president to read through it and then offer a real signature. Is that possible in 100% of all cases? No. I don't think any of us would require that. But how much did the Biden administration use the auto pen? Was Biden really at home, or did his subordinates just push things through with this automatic signature? A lot of questions are being asked, and this is not going to end up well, I'm afraid. All right, this is something which is interesting, and we have discussed periodically things like Elon Musk and Mars, so this must have come across my Instagram feed because of this. Is the moon home to $1 trillion worth of precious metals? That's what a new study claims, signaling the possibility of an expensive resource extraction race in the coming years. There are things like this which you will see periodically float across different scientific magazines and channels. How much gold, how much platinum is on the moon? Are there solid gold asteroids, solid titanium asteroids, these kinds of things. One of the things we know as technology improves, just as here in North America and in other parts of the planet, gold was discovered in California, gold was discovered in South Africa, and you see a huge number of people, race toward the West. They move, they pick up to go make their fortune. How many people, when it's discovered that the moon, Mars, has got different precious metals, are going to say, hey, I'm leaving Earth for a while. I'm going to go make my fortune on the moon. I'm going to go make my fortune on Mars. I'm going to go make my fortune in the asteroid belt. If the Lord tarries, we're going to see colonies on the moon, colonies on Mars, colonies in the asteroid belt. Science fiction has already portrayed them in some way. And it's going to be from people who want to go make their fortune in these different avenues. Okay, Instagram, coming back home to Earth. This is from Newsmax yesterday. New York City Mayor Eric Adams warned that duplicating the current riots in Los Angeles will not be tolerated. Now, we know from yesterday that riots have even taken place here in Dallas. I live in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, so Riots are going to start taking place likely in a lot of major cities over the next week or so. Are there going to be mayors like Eric Adams who say, not going to be tolerated? Are others going to give in? Pray for peace. Pray for sanity to prevail. If people want to protest, that's not an issue. If they're going to vandalize, burn cars, loot, that's something else. President Trump, Newsmax, yesterday, June the 10th. President Donald Trump, hoping to restore safety to riot-hit Los Angeles, demurred on invoking the Insurrection Act to go full force with the U.S. military, but said, we'll see what happens. Indeed, how out of control are some of these riots going to get? If they're burning American flags, if they're shouting death to America, if they are trying to enact sedition, I can assure you that firm measures will be taken by the president. And how much of a repeat are we going to see from 5 years ago, the summer of 2020? A lot of people are speculating, a lot of people are watching, and a lot of people are hoping that this blows over. Okay, from Charisma News. I haven't reported on this story, although this is not the first time I've seen it. This is June the 10th. Some of you all have seen this floating around social media, perhaps. Scientists unveil orb they believe is a real UFO. And, there's a lot of speculation about this. According to the Daily Mail, this sphere, which has earned the name Buga Sphere, was first located in March in Colombia and has been going through testing in Mexico. It has foreign writing on the outside of it, which is believed to be from aliens. So far, the team has found fiber optic wires, which leads them to believe that it can send and receive signals. Okay. What is this? What is it not? I honestly don't know, but this article connects it to, as stories like the Buga Sphere continue to make headlines, the question isn't whether this orb is alien or artificial. It's what these events signify from a spiritual perspective. The Bible warns in Matthew 24:24 that in the last days, false Christs and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, the elect. These strange phenomena can easily serve as tools of end times deception designed to shift focus away from Christ and toward a counterfeit spirituality. Okay. And one of the things we do know about Charisma, whether we like it or not, they do post a lot on issues involving the Nephilim of Genesis 6. Was it fallen angels and human females producing a race of giants? And per the Messiah's word that the days before his return will be like the days of Noah, are we going to see a return of these Nephilim vis-a-vis the form now of aliens, extraterrestrials, UFOs? We wait and see, but hopefully next week in one of our longer episodes, we will have a discussion about the Nephilim, a more formal theological discussion. I do believe that one of the elements which required God to send the flood was the Nephilim. That is controversial, but I also recognize how Nephilim speculation is something which can get out of control. It can get easily sensationalized and then packaged, and all of a sudden you have people forming a movement around it, which is not right. We need to be able to realistically sort through these matters, recognizing that there are legitimate issues from Genesis 6, early Genesis, to be evaluated. Likewise, because of just when we are in the year 2025, people ask questions about the greater universe. Are we alone? How do we sort through this biblically? All right, our next story, and this is from Instagram. I thought this was interesting. It's from the channel Entrepreneurs Quote. Would you trust an AI doctor to perform surgery on you? And the headline is, China opens the world's first AI hospital with 14 AI doctors, can treat 3,000 patients daily. I'm obviously, there's a lot of speculation regarding science, how far our creator's going to let humanity go with experimentation, new technologies, etc. But a lot of us, whether we want to admit it or not, have already been conditioned to an extent to accept some kind of robotic doctor, some kind of an android doctor, some kind of an AI doctor. Yes, some of us go online, we go to different websites, I'm feeling bad, I've got a strange pain in my arm, and we type in these different symptoms, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to take an aspirin? Am I just supposed to get more rest? Am I supposed to drink more water? Or do I need to go to the emergency room, right? We already do those things. But with science fiction, whether it's Star Wars, you had different android doctors, right? We remember the scene at the end of Empire Strikes Back. Luke Skywalker gets his artificial hand, and it's not an organic doctor that gives it to him. It's an android doctor. It's a droid. And then on Star Trek Voyager, remember the doctor who is a hologram? He gets his mobile emitter, of course, later in the series, so he can go on away missions and everything. But he, for the first several seasons, he's confined to sick bay because he's a hologram, and he's the emergency medical hologram because the original doctor on Voyager dies. So we've already been conditioned to this to an extent. The question is, how far is this going to be allowed in the sovereign control of God? Would you have a problem with a robotic doctor performing surgery on you, or more likely performing some kind of minor medical procedure, setting a bone because you broke your arm or you broke your wrist, giving you stitches, performing a certain dental procedures? I mean, I think that's where it's going to start. How far are we going to be allowed to go? I don't know, but I do find these kinds of things fascinating, and I know many of you do as well, because in the realm of paying attention to the news, as important as a lot of the Israel-centric news is, there are a lot of other things which we don't need to let fall through the cracks. Okay, here's another one from Charisma, and this is asking a lot of questions, raising a lot of questions. Researchers locate another quote-unquote city beneath the Giza pyramids. Some of you all may have seen on different alternative media sites, but then Charisma and I think even End Time Headlines may have picked it up. There's something deep underneath the pyramids at Giza. What is it? What is it not? I don't know, but it begs a lot of speculation. So, according to the Jerusalem Post, the same team who discovered structures below the pyramid of Khafra, I think that's how you pronounce it, now say they've uncovered shafts and chambers underneath the pyramid of Menkaure. Hope I pronounced that properly too. Are there a lot of mysteries as they involve things like the pyramids at Giza? Absolutely. Are we going to have all the answers? Probably not. But in this case, Charisma is tying it into Genesis 6:4, tells us that there were giants in the earth in those days, mighty men which were of old, men of renown. The book of Enoch describes these beings as the hybrid offspring of rebellious angels and human women, beings of immense strength and forbidden knowledge. And it asks the question, what if the Great Pyramids weren't merely tombs for pharaohs, but markers built atop ancient ruins predating even Egyptian civilization? Okay, that's how they're tying this in. They're tying it into the Nephilim. They had a major civilization. It's buried underneath the pyramids at Giza. Do we know? Do we not know? Of course not. But we don't want to act as though people aren't reading this and they're not going to start speculating and guessing. From Open Source Intel yesterday, June the 10th. Axios report, during a phone call, Netanyahu warned Trump that Iran excels at delaying tactics and requires a strong military threat to be taken seriously. Trump remained skeptical of Netanyahu's argument. Trump believes Iran can be persuaded to negotiate a deal. Indeed, we would hope that the Iranians come to their senses and they want to make a deal with the Trump administration, let go of their nuclear aspirations, see some kind of normalcy restored with the Western world, and get their economy moving again and get their society back to better living standards, because all the sanctions doesn't help the people of Iran, and that's what we would hope to see. That's what we all are praying for. But we know these are the kinds of things which can go day to day and can change. Along with that, here's another one from the Times of Israel Instagram. There has been significant progress in hostage talks, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says in a video statement. It's too early to raise hopes, he continues, but we are working tirelessly right now, and all the time I hope we will be able to move forward. No one wants the Gaza situation over more than the Israeli government. Okay, they want this thing over as fast as humanly possible. They want Hamas gone. They want the hostages back. They want peace in the region. Again, this is something which can change day to day. We continue to pray. We continue to reach out to the Lord. Have some level of peace return to the Middle East. Also from Times of Israel Instagram, U.S. President Donald Trump told Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday that his threats to attack Iran are not helping, the Khan public broadcaster reports. The negotiations with Iran are futile, Netanyahu told Trump during their 40-minute phone call yesterday. He argued that Iran is playing with the U.S. and all it's trying to do is drag out talks. Trump retorted that Netanyahu's statements about attacking Iran aren't helping while he is working on an agreement with Iran. Again, this is something that can change. It goes day to day. We hope that it does not come to some kind of a military involvement. We really do hope that some kind of peace can come to the region. But how far is it going to go? Is it going to just be tit for tat, back and forth, and then the threat? Are we going to get to a Cuban Missile Crisis level? What's going to happen? All right, so our next story, this is from, excuse me, this is from Representative Anna Paulina Luna. Some of you are just now hearing about the No King's Day on June the 14th, so that is this Saturday, this Shabbat. Representative Anna Paulina Luna, who's on different committees to see things declassified and these uncomfortable matters come out into the open, she says, Walmart heiress Christy Walton is funding full-page color ads in the New York Times for No King's Day, a nationwide counter-protest scheduled for Trump's birthday, organized by far-left group Indivisible. Looks like the Walmart dynasty is big mad about China tariffs. Okay, but this is the one thing that people need to be paying attention to. No King's Day, we already know about the excuse me again, the riots which have been taking place in Los Angeles. There have been riots taking place in New York, riots taking place here in Dallas. They're going to be riots all over the United States. Certainly protests taking place. How violent are they going to get? How civil are they going to remain? That's what a lot of people need to be in prayer about. Are we going to see a repeat of 2020, or is this just going to be a nothing burger? I can guarantee you, because Christy Walton, one of the heiresses of Sam Walton, the Walmart fortune, is going to be involved. You're going to see a lot of people, just like several years ago, pulling back from Target. They're going to start pulling back from Walmart. Okay, Leo Terrell, he's senior counsel for civil rights at the Justice Department. We pulled out his name. recently with the whole Guy Christensen situation. I thought this was very important. He says, to the anti-Semites who question Israel for not releasing the October 7 footage and claim the massacre never happened. The IDF showed the gruesome October 7 footage to journalists, diplomats, and UN officials, among others. Even Secretary General Antonio Guterres called it humanity at its worst. Why do you believe him on everything else but accuse him of lying about this? Not all the footage should be available for mass consumption. Do you think a woman being gang raped and butchered should be streaming on Netflix? How would her family feel? There is extensive documentary evidence of the massacre that you can find with a simple Google search. Much of the footage was taken by terrorists themselves. They shared recordings on social media and with family and friends because they were proud. The people writing in comments to my post that October 7 did not happen or trying to downplay it are proving my point. Vile, rampant anti-Semitism permeates society. Indeed, this is something very poignant because of how Greta Thunberg was recently taken into custody by the IDF. She and her party had to watch some of this. They refused, and then they were deported. It's real. These things really did take place. It really is horrific. From Open Source Intel, yesterday evening, June the 10th, and this dovetails with what is anticipated possibly over this weekend. Mainstream media isn't telling you this, but I will. It's going to be one wild summer, and it's coming fast. All the axes are going to unite. Pro-Palestine, anti-ICE, anti-Trump, CCP, BLM, LGBTQ+, socialists, Islamicists, Marxists, climate activists, open border activists, and the far left liberals. Okay, what do we need to do about that as believers other than pray for sanity to prevail? People have a right to protest. They don't have a right to vandalize. They don't have a right to burn American flags. They don't have a right to advocate sedition. They have a right to stand with their sign and let people come up to them and ask them questions and engage in reasonable dialogue. But we're more likely to see violence, threats, and more than anything else, a lot of people be afraid. And so how is it going to affect us as believers? Well, if you are a Jewish person and you are in a synagogue, you, whether you like it or not, have some kind of a target on you. By extension, if you have a Messianic congregation, you probably also have a target on you as well. If you are a Messianic congregation which meets at a church or meets at an elementary school, you have a buffer because you don't have a permanent place of operation. Some of you all are aware of how the Israel Summit, which was going to be held here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, got canceled because of safety concerns. What other events are happening this summer? Maybe they're not going to be canceled, but if you're going to them, if you're going to a major Messianic conference, you need to be careful of your surroundings. I mean, these are now real live issues, and we just live in that world. Yes, we pray for peace. We pray for the Lord's protection. We have access to the infinite power of heaven. We have access to legions of angels. I can definitely tell you that there are circumstances in my life just beyond, how are we going to do this? How are we going to get through this problem? How are we going to pay that bill? Where I can attest to the Lord's supernatural protection. But I can also attest to the Lord prompting members of my family to watch out, be careful, and maybe you don't need to do this. Maybe you don't need to go there today. We can all hopefully remember those circumstances in our lives when there was an incident at location X, but we were delayed in traffic, or somebody got sick, or whatever it was, and we weren't there when incident Z took place. Okay. 3 more stories, and then we'll wrap this up. Okay, this is from Elon Musk. This was during the middle of the night. 2:04 a.m., June the 11th. I regret some of my posts about President Donald Trump last week. They went too far. So what was that all about? I mean, we ended the weekend with the Donald Trump, Elon Musk schism, the breakup. What was all that about? I'm still trying to figure it out. Was it real? Was it staged? One of the things we do know about Donald Trump is some drama is created over here, so people will pay attention over here, whereas what's really happening is over there. We wait and see. From the X channel, Open Source Intel Defender, Open Source Intelligence Monitor. Reports now from several other media outlets in Israel appear to confirm last night's article from Haaretz discussing a heated phone call between U.S. President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, in which Netanyahu stated the Iranians are purposely stalling the ongoing nuclear talks and that Trump is being played by Tehran, while President Trump refused to give his blessing toward Israeli military action against Iranian nuclear sites and urged Netanyahu to stop any further aggressive rhetoric about striking Iran. Okay. And this is from yesterday afternoon, June the 10th. So we know this is an ongoing situation, and the U.S. and Israel, they're still allies, but they're both trying to work through this in their own ways. And what is going to happen? We don't know at present, but we know that there are a lot of people inside of Iran. They have had it with the Iranian regime. Those are the people we need to be praying for. And yes, we need to be praying that sanity prevails, but that the best solution for the Iranians manifests. That's what I know I pray for and hope for. From Open Source Intel, and this is where we have to monitor things every day. This is from this morning. Israeli jets have been roaring overhead across the country all week, from the north to the south. Yet there are no reports of actual strikes. That points to one likely explanation: preparations for a potential strike on Iran. Still, Trump's tone suggests something else. If no deal is reached, he appears more inclined to sanction Iran into collapse rather than launch an attack. Unless this is something else entirely, a calculated psyop in motion. And indeed, how much of this rhetoric is done on purpose to focus the attention of Iran and their allies over here, while this is taking place over there? We don't know. And finally, from Open Source Intel, new. And this is from this morning. An anti-Trump protest backed by billionaire Christy Walton is set for June 14th, the Army's birthday, as a massive military parade takes place in D.C. Organizers say protests will erupt in 1,500 U.S. cities. So for a lot of us, we've just been paying attention to the riots in Los Angeles, National Guard, Marines called up, then New York, some of the things which took place in front of Trump Tower in Manhattan. For us, things which took place in Dallas. And yes, we would expect some other, major U.S. cities, some things to take place. But here, at least according to this map, protest events planned for June the 14th, places with planned rallies, meetings, or visibility events as of June the 3rd, 2025. Oh my gosh. So yeah, all of these major, metropolitan areas, places where I have certainly traveled and even lived before. So yeah, you see Cincinnati right there, my hometown, the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, Orlando. Yeah, you see all these places. You see Oklahoma City, my goodness. But definitely here in the Northeast corridor right here from Washington all the way to Boston, and of course Los Angeles, San Francisco, places like Seattle. Yeah, this is a problem. So pray for peace, pray for sanity to prevail, but think smartly. And the next few days, the next few weeks are going to be very interesting. So I know that a lot of you are concerned. A lot of you are worried. You should be. We shouldn't be putting our head in the sand. But each one of us, even if we're not here, even if you don't live here in the United States, these are the same kind of things that can pop up in any city or region. We remember some of the events of 2020. They were not isolated to the American homeland. There are going to be conflicts, not only between nation states in the last days, but between groups of people in the last days. So pray for peace, pray for supernatural and divine protection. As I said, we have access to the powers of heaven. We have access to legions of angels, but also pray that you can connect to the Lord to know, I don't need to go there. I need to be aware of what's happening in my environment. I mean this with all the love and respect in the world. Don't be like a lot of people in the Messianic community. Well, I'm just going to study Torah and Hashem will then protect me. It doesn't work like that. Studying the Holy Scriptures is great. It's wonderful. But we do live in a 21st century and we don't need to be caught unaware. All right, so we go day to day with the news, whether it's theology or the actual news. And I greatly appreciate all of you who join us. You join me 5 times a week with our ongoing conversation. As always, on behalf of Outreach Israel Ministries and Messianic Apologetics, I would like to sincerely thank you for your ongoing prayers, encouragement, and donations toward all of our ministry efforts. You can give online at outreachisrael.net/support. We'll see you again tomorrow with another episode of Messianic Insider. Until then, may God bless you, shalom, and take care.